pre-image to image then. Okay. Go ahead real quick, do it on the last one there. X-axis, highlight the X-axis. All right. Highlight the X-axis, and we're kind of going more this time what? Bottoms up, I guess, in that regard. As we do that then, all right, D is what? One away. D prime is one away. E is 1, 2, 1, 2. F is 1, 2, 3. What is that? 1, 2, 3. I can't count. 4? Is it 4? 5. Looks like it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a step back, and do we get the same thing? Only thing else I can just tell you is please make sure you are labeling your image points as well. Okay. So again, that's probably right, kind of where you started off with way back when. We did a little bit of review of that yesterday. And let's keep talking a bit more about reflections, and then we're going to use the patty paper with reflections as well. Technically, we could have used our patty paper on this, but if it's on a grid, it's probably just quicker to do that. So let's go ahead and look at that next part then. As we've been doing, we're going to kind of jump around some good pages and not so stellar pages. So let's go ahead and jump to this page right here. All right, I think it's the next page, which is page what? 117. All right, so what we want to do then here is we want to go ahead and do a reflection of triangle JFD right here. And read carefully of what line they want you to reflect on. We want to reflect over line M. So this is now where our patty paper comes into play. Okay. We want to take our patty paper and do a reflection on that. So when we do a reflection with patty paper, and I don't have my corner grid, all right, what I want to transfer over onto that patty paper is first the pre-image. Okay, so triangle FJD. So let's lay our patty paper on there. And I also want to transfer over the line of reflection. So I also want to put on there line M. Those are the two things I went on there. Just like we did the translation yesterday, we put on there the translation rule and then the pre-image point that we wanted to move. So on your patty paper again, you've got triangle JFD on there and line M. And then what does a reflection do? We say it's a flip, right? So then take your patty paper and flip it. And when you flip it, make sure then that line of reflection M we traced on there is then lined up on your notes page right there. Because all it should do then is flip it over. Okay? I'm just going to freehand it. But F is on the line of reflection, so F prime should be in the exact same location. J is so far away, so J prime should be that same distance on the other side. And D is that same length, so D prime should be right there. And then use that patty paper, again, tuck your pencil underneath of that, and then make the picture like that. Okay? That's how we can use patty paper for reflections. Okay? Now, from here, after we did the reflection then, what relationship is there between the segment J prime and D prime? What's happening there? What's the relationship that's there? Bless you. That's true. What do we know about the segment itself, though? From here to here and from here to here. What do we know? Eric? Yeah, they're that equidistant I was telling you about. Okay? So whenever you do a reflection, all right, from here to the line of reflection is going to be the same distance from here to here. Now it just so happens J and D are vertical, right? So they are at the same distance away, and when I reflect it over, D prime is going to be that same distance. So in this particular case, all right, as he did say, let's just say it, they are congruent. Okay? I can spell congruent. So we want to keep talking about, this isometry that should be the same shape and size. And on the reflection then, all right, it should be equidistant from the line of reflection. Did the F prime change position at all? No, right? So everything's not moving obviously the same distance. J to J prime moved the same distance as D to D prime, but F prime stayed in the same location. But what we then say then is this right here, these are all equidistant from the line of reflection. Okay. Now, from there, letter C, what relationship is there among J, J prime, D, D prime, and line M? What relationship exists between these three things? Okay, let's bring some of that in there. I've heard a few things there. First thing I heard is that these two are parallel. These two segments are parallel. That is true. Another thing we have here is they're the same distance. There's one other thing I'm looking for with that. Meadow?
Line M is the midpoint of both of them?
Alright, so let's bring in some other vocabulary we've talked about too. Getting back to that equidistant. Okay? We got these two lines that turn out to be parallel, okay? And it's an equal distance. So what M is doing is acting as what we say is the bisector. It's right there in that middle. So let's state that out. Line M is in the middle of each segment, acting as, and we're going to say acting as a bisector. If I could spell bisector a little bit better. Okay. Now, Meadow got it started there with saying the word midpoint. The only thing I'm going to just pump brakes on that one is it's a point. Line M is a line. So when I bring that together, she's exactly right with the middle of that. But I'm going to use that word bisector right there on that. Okay. Okay, so let's go and do the next reflection. Reflect the other triangle across line N and create yourself some points. I don't care how you want to name them. Name the pre-image points and name the image points correctly. We did AB, no, we did JFD, so just go maybe simple and say ABC or XYZ. Those are kind of our go-to ones off of there. Do a reflection then, and since I don't have, again, a coordinate grid system, that's where I rely on my patty paper. So if I'm doing some type of transformation that's not on the coordinate grid, I'm sure I'm using my patty paper. So as we reflect that over, okay, we kind of get the same option happen there, right? Where I'm going to call that XYZ, ABC, whatever you want to do, I don't care. But X prime should be that same equal distance, and N prime should be, sorry, not N prime, line N should be right there in the middle of those two things, okay? Line N should be in the middle of X to X prime, Z to Z prime, and it's a little weird to think about it, but it's also right there in the middle of Y, Y prime, because it's right on the line of reflection, which is a little kind of funky to think of it like that, okay? So we're talking reflections here, and then let's continue on here, talking reflections. All right, anything more on that page? Does not look like it. So let's go and look at the next side. All right, so this goes back to the homework question I think Lillian asked just a second ago. When it says write an equality congruent statements to compare the corresponding sides of the pre-image and the image. So what do we mean by that? So let's go back to that JFD right here and its image. All right, so JFD, what we mean by writing the equality or congruence of the corresponding sides, we have triangle JFD. So one of the side lengths is named what? JF, right? And what did JF then correspond to on the other image? J prime F prime, right? So matching up those corresponding parts, those corresponding pieces. Here, they want to focus on just the sides. So we have a side of JF, we have a side of J prime F prime it corresponds to. We had a side of what? JD. And what does that correspond to then? J prime D prime. And we had a side of, what's the last side I didn't catch yet? Yep, DF. Does the order matter? Nope. If you have a side of DF, what does that correspond to? D prime, F prime. So when you do these transformations, you have a corresponding part. And then as we started to see a little bit yesterday, if some type of dilation was happening, we get into this idea of being proportional, okay? But we're not focused on dilations. These should all turn out to be the same, same side lengths is what I was getting to. Now, as we keep working here, all right, let me see if on this next part. Okay, so let's look at letter letter A here, and let's describe then your notation style for reflections. So we had said beforehand, we just write it out kind of in words. The old style is to say, hey, do a reflection over the x-axis. That's pretty much kind of universal there. But as we keep just kind of going there, we can also bring in some of our next notation styles. So if you see this that they want us to do, describe the reflection of triangle FJD. So when I go back to that triangle, JFD here, what line did we reflect it over? We reflected over line M, right? So when I write up the reflection rule here, okay, capital R there, and then we're going to put what you're reflecting. What are we reflecting? Triangle J, or they're using FJD, whatever. Now you have to tell us what to reflect over. On that page we had two lines, right? Line M and line N. Which one do we reflect over? M. So make sure then you tell me which line to reflect it over. Just like we did on the translations yesterday, tell me what you're doing for the translation rule. You want it to do AB. That's what we did yesterday. Here you want to reflect over that triangle with line M, and what do you create in return? We created what in return? F prime, J prime, and yep, that's how we write the reflection rules. Okay, we'll use those interchangeably. We'll keep working with just kind of stating it out in words like that, and then we'll also write in this kind of next style notation. Okay. Now, letter B knows, well, how we know is a reflection there, and we kept kind of hitting on it. All those pre-image points and image points, they're equidistant from the line of reflection. So all the pre-image and image points are equidistant from let's try that again here, from the line of reflection. So I'll pause and get out of your way here. Okay. So as we reflect things over, it better be the same distance from the line of reflection. If it's not, you didn't reflect it correctly. Okay? These reflections should turn out to be, again, the same shape and size, and that should be all equidistant from that line of reflection. Okay? All right, give me a second there. We'll move it on. There's not a lot here to talk about today, then we'll do some more on Monday. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and turn it then. Or I don't know if you need to turn it or not, but I will have to turn my page. Go, partner. Okay. So let's look at that next page. Let's do now a reflection here. Okay. So as we did yesterday with translations, we talked a little bit about it, and then we actually performed it. So this is where our patty papers come into play. Just like we did a few minutes ago, we're going to do that same thing here. It says to reflect quadrilateral STUV over line M. So when we do a reflection here, on that patty paper we go. I am putting on that patty paper the pre-image quadrilateral and also the line of reflection. So that when I flip my patty paper, I want to make sure then I adjust it so that line M is on top of line M. And then slide your pencil underneath that patty paper and label out where your STU and V primes should be located. Okay. So think about what that is, and I know you can probably kind of freehand some of that as well, but that paper Some to get a little bit better job off that. Kind of do a sketch out like I usually do. Alright. Now what should happen then is, okay, if you could take your notes page and fold it along line M there, what should happen with those two pictures? They should land right on top of one another, right? If it's not, again, you reflected it incorrectly. Now let's make sure we're naming the points correctly. What is this point here going to be? That's good. That one? Alright, that's good. And by using V's, I know kind of looks similar. It is what it is. A little bit better. Okay. Take the next one. I think there's another one there. And do that reflection. Okay. So we are going to reflect triangle JTG over line C. Use that patty paper again. If you need more patty paper, it's always up there. Put on that patty paper two things. Again, the pre-image, and you also want that line of reflection. Okay. For the most part, everything we've been doing here, from reflections to rotations to translations, when we use that patty paper, we're kind of putting almost everything on there for us now. Just do that reflection. Alright, so I got roughly, my pictures aren't great, but it should be about that type of picture off there. Okay. What I'm looking for is to make sure that, again, you've got those points labeled correctly in the right locations. When I grade that out on your quiz or test, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not going to go through and measure everything, but I'm just going to do a quick look, just kind of checking to see, hey, do I see kind of an equal distance here? Mine is not stellar. Yours should be a little bit better. And then the next thing I'm looking for is, did you correctly label the points in the right locations? Translation is kind of hard to screw that up, but I definitely know that in past, students then label the image points incorrectly, so let's watch out for that. All right, now let's go find the line of reflection. So on the next, skip it over page. On the next page, I want you to figure out whether the figures are reflections of one another, and if so, find the line of reflection. So looking at these three options here, we got A, B, and C. My guess is you can probably figure out which one is the reflection, if one or ones are the reflections, and then trying to find the line of reflections next piece of that. So just by glancing at them, A, B, and C, would somebody tell me maybe which one of those could be a considered reflection of that? That's good, you should be able to tell that. Now, is there another reflection up there? No. What does C appear to be?
Translation.
Correct. So that's a translation happening. We can see that same orientation. What happened there? It just got slid either left or right, depending on which one was the pre-image, right? And what does B more appear to be? Yeah, that appears to be a rotation. So the follow-up is, you said correctly. Now, go find me the line of reflection. So I am a little picky on this one here. Okay, now how can we find that line of reflection here? Is that a suggestion? It definitely is to find that kind of sweet spot, find that difference there of where that line's coming in the middle. And again, I know when I've graded through plenty of these assessments, some people kind of just freehand that in, but I can usually kind of tell some of that. How can I find that maybe just to get a little bit better?
You could draw like make the lines to the matrix.
Okay, I can get into some of that. Let's make our lives a little bit easier. Use that patty paper. Okay, let's use that patty paper. How are we going to use that patty paper? Well, just kind of what you did, think about the tail end of that process. I'm gonna put both of these images on the patty paper. And what am I gonna do with that patty paper? You were talking about finding the middle,
Fold
fold it, and how am I gonna fold it? Such that,
the two shapes.
yep, the two shapes lie on top of one another, and then crease it, okay? And where that crease is at should be your line of reflection. So on your patty paper, take those two quadrilaterals, put it over that, trace those two quadrilaterals on that patty paper. And then after that, you wanna crease that so it lands one on top of the other. And where that crease is at, that is your line of reflection. This is one of the very first things we did at the very beginning of the year. We did the same thing when we were doing mustard. We were trying to find the midpoint. We were trying to bisect the segments. This is exactly what we get done. The perpendicular bisector, the exact same idea. Except now instead of just one point, you're doing a whole shape there. So as you fold that over, all right, you find that crease right there down the middle. Now how do I get that on there? What I would do then is keep that crease there, just kind of put that half the paper there, and wherever that crease lands then, go ahead, take your pencil and go along that crease. Okay, if you're not sure what I just said there, give me a holler, ask a buddy. I'll be more than happy to better explain that next to you. But I'm keeping my patty paper on top of that so it lines up nice and neat, and wherever that crease is again landing, I'm going through and take my pencil and drawing it down the middle, okay? Now again, like I said, I'm not always very particular on some of the stuff, but if I see a reflection line like that, I'm not giving you credit off of that one, okay? That does not appear to be in that sweet spot in the middle of that, all right? What I am looking for is, and you should be able to take a look at your paper, does it look legit that I could fold that over and land back on itself? If it does not, try it again. That's, more of what I'm looking for, okay? Any questions with reflections here? They're fairly straightforward, just a little bit different type of talk, but they're fairly straightforward there. And, yep, I don't care about that. That kind of ties exactly into what we just talked about with that perpendicular bisector we did at the beginning of the year. That's what I'm gonna call it, okay? So, on Monday, we'll,